All right, thanks for staying with us. You're watching Beyond 100 Days. Let's now talk about the process and the outcome of the just concluded off-cycle elections in Imo, Kogi, and Bayelsa. I am joined on the program by the Secretary General, Follow the Money, Mokhtar Modibo. He joins us virtually. We're also joined by a counter-terrorism specialist, Olatunbosun Obolarinwa. He also joins us virtually. Good to have both of you. Let me begin with you,
Thank you for having me.
Olatunbosun. Just coming on the back of the statement being made by the IGP commending security personnel and supporting security agencies in this off-cycle election, saying they have done well and they have, looking at all the threats, that were projected ahead of this election. What's your thought on how well the security agencies did in this off-cycle election?
Thank you very much. To be very candid with you, I will want to agree with the Inspector General of Police this time around. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we are not yet at that position where we can have all our elections to be violence-free. And we shouldn't forget the fact that we still have some endemic threat affecting the country generally. So looking at the last 3 elections on Saturday, yes, we may say there were a little bit of skirmishes here and there, and there are some loss of lives that I'm yet to verify and I cannot talk about. But I think generally the involvement and the activities of the security agencies are commendable.
In terms of securing the election, you have given them a pass mark. What about police conduct? Most times, people will say that in previous elections, security operatives were very much an instrument in perpetrating violence, but it seemed not to have been the case in this particular election. What made the difference?
I think the body language of the Inspector General of Police sends a lot of signal to his officers out there, and generally too, a lot of other platform has been launched recently, which is monitoring the activities of the security agencies generally. The Nigerian police office have their complete response unit still active, while the Police Service Commission too has recently launched another platform where the monitoring of and activities of the police can be reported. And we've seen few judgments recently that are not in favor of police in terms of their conduct out there. All this put together, I think some messages have been sent to officers and men of the force, and I could see that the issue of accountability for your action when you are out there performing your operation or duties is coming to play out in the way police do their things, and it played out well in this election, and I'm hoping to see more in the nearest future.
And I will get to Modibo in just a moment, but I want to stay with you on security still. There was an isolated case, and I say isolated because it's just one that was reported. I'm sure you saw that video where a police officer was being paraded for helping or supporting in the snatching, I think, of a ballot box, as it were. What's your thought on that, and how should such situations be dealt with?
Like I said earlier on, it's an unfortunate and isolated situation. In the past election, police has been found complicit, and I think because they were brought to account with proper record and reporting, I think all eyes are on them now, and I want to commend those who came together to bring this to the forefront for us to see. The officer who does that, I'm sure, will be held accountable and is going to be set as an example to others to be able to manage their conduct very well when they are out representing the force in any way or form. All the same, that they were able to bring him out is one thing. Another thing is the type of prosecution that is going to follow. And I want to urge the policing authority to ensure that the sanctioning and prosecuting of this officer is made open to serve as a clear message to others for them to be able to contain their conduct when they are out serving the nation.
Interesting you mentioned that, because Nigerians, that's when a lot of Nigerians have the doubt that, look, nothing happens at the end of the day. So it's very important that this is made open. But let me bring in Modibo into the conversation. Let me get your thoughts as well and the assessment of the process and the outcome of this particular election.
All right. So first of all, I have to say I will join my voice in commending the police of what they did in the November 11, during the November 11 election. But that is sending another lesson. That is to tell you that we are under police. Under police in the sense that, 40,000 or 44,000 was deployed to Kogi State with a proven record of violence, post-election violence and what have you. And, everything went smoothly. I was particularly in Adavi, Okehi, Ajakuta, Ogori Mogongo, as well as Koton Karfe. I will tell you personally that the securities were present, and there have been that issue of, sanity. They've sort of brought sanity into the election. But the question is, if we're having a general election, will we have that kind of deployment, right, for sanity to be brought into our election cycle or into our election point? That is what we need to ask ourselves. That has told us that, we're under police, and, if we can get that required number of police, then we can have that sanity into our process. And not just the police. I think all the security personnel that worked during this particular election should be commended, both the military, the NCDC, as well as the DSS. We've encountered a lot of them exercising their duties. At some point in Okehi local government, we were meant to understand that it was some men of the DSS that control crowd, as well as the ICPC and the EFCC. In Okehi local government, we've seen an arrest by the men of the EFCC. They arrested a woman with a large chunk amount of money involving in one of the electoral malpractice, which is vote buying. And we've seen some level of arrest in both Imo as well as Bayelsa. So it's thin to say we commend them, but I think we need to go back and learn through the process to understand that if this is a general election, we cannot have this kind of deployment into one state. That is to say, we need to really look at inward and see this thing. And another thing that is key on the security is in part of Bayelsa and part of Kogi, we've witnessed some level of non-state actors security, like the vigilantes and what have you, that have been involved. Are we going to, I know the previous IGP said they are not constitutional, and we all know that it's not constitutional. Are we going to really engage them during election? Yes or no? It's another thing that we all need to, look at into the landscape. But for commendation, I think...
What would be because you have talked about size in terms of number, when it comes to securing the general election. Of course, you're right. The states are more, it's national, it's subnational, and so you need a lot of people. And involving the vigilante would not be such a bad idea. But wouldn't there also be challenges to involving people who are not well trained and who can also be susceptible to being used by politicians because they know the terrain and know these politicians so well?
Yeah, I think that's the bigger problem. And that's why I said we are on the police. And I think we need to get more trained, professional, competent police officers that can do the exact job that these ones in this particular state did. We just recorded some pockets of violence and some pocket of issues in their manning. So we have to commend them for that, not just police now, every other security that took part of that, because I've seen immigration, I've seen ICPC, EFCC, as well as civil defense, the military, and the police as well. It's time for us to say kudos to them, and then, we congratulate them for achieving this milestone, because this is big.
Let me bring Olatumosun back in. It will seem as though, whilst we're talking, in my head, it will seem as though there is some connection between the number of people who are policing our election and then police conduct? Because in this particular election, we had more police deployed to, and security personnel, not just the police, deployed to a state, and we had less incidents of, in fact, just one incident of the police who was being used to perpetrate violence and snatch ballot box. So it would seem as though there is a connection there. So how do we then improve when it comes to the general election? And they also speak on the issue of the vigilantes being involved.
We have a long time between now and the next general election. And this calls for a wake-up call that we can actually start earlier on the part of the police, the INEC, and every other security agencies to have, there is need for there to be more preparation, more new ideas, more new innovations to be brought in to how election is monitored. It is doable. Now, the Nigerian Road Safety Corps are currently wearing cameras. The vehicle VIO2 are wearing camera in their operations. When are we going to start seeing security agencies being posted to election to start wearing body cam to be able to capture real-time incidents with the intent of using it for adequate and proper prosecution of electoral offenders? Those are the kind of things we need to start preparing for. International agency and civil society organizations that are getting involved too should move away and migrate from writing things down on paper and deploy drone to places so that we can actually see the picture of things and how it happened and a proper prosecution. One thing that is very important is the issue of accountability. We need to try and move ourselves to be held accountable for what we've done. So the police have a very, very good platform now to make example of this police officer that was caught meddling with election activities and ensure that how he's handled is made public so as to serve as a deterrent to others who might want to do such in the nearest future. On the issue of using the non-trained actors, non-governmental actors to monitor election, I will want us to tread with caution on that because of safety. Yes, we can get people, civil society organization, Nigerian police force and other security agencies can start getting some of them and training them on how to gather evidence to help prosecution. It's a training that can be given to them well in advance, and we should start that now. We shouldn't wait until it is time for election. INEC too should do the same, but I don't know how far the Civilian Joint Task Force that were involved in fighting terrorism has helped us in the Northeast. I personally see it as putting civilians through unnecessary risk, and I wouldn't want us to do that. To set up a monitoring platform for future election is not a rocket science. And like I said, the earlier we start, the more serious we are about it, the better it's going to be and the better results we're going to get.
All right, so let's talk about the election itself. Mokhtar, the president has responded. He has congratulated the three people who won that election, Governor Hope Uzodinma, Governor Doyediri, and then Governor-elect Usman Odudu. Now, he congratulated them, even in the state where APC did not win. He also congratulated the winner. What's your thought on that, and what's the optics of that?
All right, so first of all, we just have to understand that he is our president, not the president of APC or a president of a particular place. I have to say, right, as an election observer that has observed election, this is my second cycle of election observation. I've observed election in Kenya, Liberia, Gambia, and presently in Nigeria. I have to commend, INEC on the kind of deployment that was done. Just so you know, we've had 9 electoral commissioners moved from their states to Kogi State, where I was, right? Including that of Kogi State, making 10, monitoring, supervising, observing how the conduct and the process is going. That is to tell you that, it's a thing for us to say INEC has done something. And, elections are expensive, just so we all know. And, all those conduct and what have you has to do with implementations as well as releases. I will tell you, based on the kind of data that we've received, 94% of the use of beavers, and 94% percent of beavers has was in a good operational point, up to the 94% in, I think the lowest we've had in the entire 3 states that participated in this election is at 94%. That's the use of beavers. We've shifted election in Nigeria because of logistics. And then this is an election that we've not had a lot of issues that has to do with logistics. It's something to commend INEC about. And on Friday, we went through, that's on the 10th, we went through almost 9 to 10 RAG to see how the deployment is being conducted. And I will tell you, in the morning on Saturday, that's on 11, we were at almost 9 polling units. And before 7:25, INEC officials were there. And then there have been some conduct of conversation around, a conversation around sensitization before the election will happen. That's to say, there were deployment and there were, really good management of time with regards to logistics and what have you. And for the president, we have to say, we have to commend him, for timely release of funds for the off-cycle election, as well as giving that point of, we've had a lot of conversation from the security operatives saying you have every right to go out, cast your vote, and move on. And I think one of the things INEC has done was to, do something around belief, hope, and trust. People might have had issues with them during the general election, but this conduct is showing that they have
so basically there is an improvement with this particular election. And I think, I know that Latin Bosu wanted to come in, but we do have to rest the conversation here. But whilst we rest it on the show, it continues because reactions have continued to, trail this particular election. And we'll see how those who did not win will also react. Thank you so much to both of you for bringing in very rich contribution to this conversation. Counterterrorism specialist Latin Bosu Abolanriwa and the Secretary General of Follow the Money, Mokta Modibo. Thank you both.
Thank you for having us.